What's going on? Welcome back to Real Estate Essentials, your one-stop shop for all things essential in the real estate world. Now today we're going to be talking about Snowmageddon, the big Austin snowstorm, the snowpocalypse. There's a lot of names for it. If you have been in Texas for the last week or even around the world, you know that Texas got hit by a huge snowstorm, huge ice storm, and it ruined everything. Texas does not have the infrastructure for snow, for ice. Basically, it was a couple days of snow, and then it would freeze overnight, so many pipes froze and burst. The streets were super icy. People didn't know how to drive on it because Texas is just not used to it. No one has four-wheel drive here, so it was really dangerous. And the worst thing was that the power went out, and then the city of Austin shut down their water. There were also some cell phone towers that were down, so people literally couldn't even communicate with each other. Then of course the aftermath, the grocery stores lost power and all of their food was spoiling, and they couldn't get the supply chain fast enough. So then grocery stores are low on inventory and people are freaking out and buying all this stuff, and we're out of food, we're out of water, we're out of power, we're out of heat. It was very cold. People for 3 full days were stuck in their homes without heat, and it was 20 degrees outside in Texas. So it was a very hectic week and very stressful for lots of people. So it was that's the bad thing. The bright side is that it was amazing to see Texas strong. I am a transplant, they call it. I grew up in Minnesota, so winter storms are no big deal to me, but a winter storm in Texas is a big deal because we don't have the infrastructure to handle it, and that's the difference. We got a couple inches of snow, which in Minnesota we would have snow plows, we would be putting salt on the streets, we have the heat and the power lines set up so that it's no big deal if everyone in Minnesota is blasting heat, but Texas is just not simply set up that way. So it broke this state, and a lot of northerners from out of Texas, I think, were kind of making fun of us, like, oh, just 1 inch of snow, you can't even handle it. But no, it was really a big deal. Many people died, and it was just bad. So like I was saying, I'm new to Texas, but one of our mottos here is Texas strong, and we really are strong. I saw that this past week. Everyone just is so resilient, and we made it through. And what was so beautiful to see was everyone helping each other out, and neighbors opening up their homes saying, oh, we have water but we don't have power, or we have power but we don't have water. I personally lost water. I've been showering at a friend's house. When we lost power, we went to Jordan's sister's house, who still had heat and electricity, and we brought some of our friends over there, and we stayed there for a couple days while we were totally out of power. And that is kind of the attitude that many of the other Austinites had. We just helped each other out. Jordan and I went out on the roads, since we are from the Midwest, me from Minnesota, him from Kansas, and we're used to driving in the snow. We picked people up and drove them to other places, to a sister's house or a friend's house or whatever, where there was power and water. And beyond that, I saw so many message boards and stuff, compiling information and compiling goods. Basically, people are like, oh, I have 3 dozen eggs, I only need 1 dozen, who needs 2 dozen eggs? And they were sharing. I have a bunch of rice, I have a bunch of pasta. It was very faith in humanity restored, for sure, because it was just so many people working together through a very difficult time. So now our power is back on, our water is back on. We do not have hot water right now, but that's okay because we went so many days without any water. It's quite hard brushing your teeth without water. So it was definitely a challenging week, but I think we're all stronger because of it, and I think it was very beautiful to see the community really step up for each other. And since this is a real estate channel, I will be answering the question that I'm sure all of you are wondering, is how will this affect the real estate industry? How will this affect the real estate market in Austin, Texas? Great question. So there are a few things. So in Austin, Texas, it's already a seller's market, which means there are way more buyers than there are sellers. And our inventory is very low, which means there are not that many people selling their homes. And I think this past week we saw a lot of flooding, a lot of there's a photo of a huge icicle in the middle of someone's kitchen, and that is pretty bad. There's also people need to pull up their carpets. If there are trees that fell, they need to fix their deck or their, wherever it fell. There are a lot of improvements that people need to make on their home. So even if someone was thinking about selling, now they probably don't want to. And what's worse, if you were in the middle of a deal, a lot of people are now figuring out, closings were there were plenty of closings scheduled for last week, but they didn't go through because no one was really leaving their house. And, if you wanted to buy a house as is, and you expected it to have water pipes that worked, and now the water pipes don't work, it leaves, kind of new room for negotiation. So I do think a lot of those deals are being prolonged and maybe even renegotiated, and depending, who should pay for those repairs, the buyer or the seller. These are things that real estate agents are now working with. So I do think that it's going to take a hit, but there were 134 new houses on the market in the last 7 days, so it didn't stand still everything. That's the good news. Houses are still being sold, houses are still going onto the market, and there's if there are people, there will be people wanting to buy and sell real estate. So I think even though the numbers are down, it's not going to, break the Austin, Texas real estate market by any means. And I also think it will be quite interesting because a lot of new home buyers, I think, are having second thoughts. If they are a first-time home buyer, they might be thinking, hey, my apartment complex handled all of this for me. They fixed the water. They, had to deal with the power going out or whatever. I don't want that responsibility. So maybe now there's more trepidation of people who would be first-time home buyers going in to buy their first home. On the flip side, it could be the opposite. People saying, I was stuck for a week without water because my apartment couldn't get it fixed, whereas if it was my own home, I could get it done faster because it's me, I care more. So that kind of weighs out evenly, and it all depends on personal preference and personal experience, because the way that the power outages happened, it was based on the grids of the electricity, and there are some places in Austin, apartments and houses, that didn't lose power, that didn't lose water. So it's not really necessarily like houses are better or apartments are better or condos are better or whatever. It really depends. That being said, I do think now home buyers will be asking questions such as, how close is this house to a hospital or a fire station? Where does this fall on a power grid? Because that's how the city decided where, the power could go to. Like, a hospital is going to always have power, so the surrounding area is also always going to have power for the most part. So I think that's a new question for home buyers that they didn't have before. And another thing that I think is going to happen, and I know is happening because it's affecting me and my clients, is that investors that want to invest in Austin, Texas, or people that want to move and live in Austin, Texas, are having some hesitations. We have 2 clients that are out of state. Both of them, actually one is an investment property and one is moving, and both of them said, hey, I'm just gonna sit on this for a little bit. If you have kind of no real reason to move to Austin, this is this was a very challenging week, and people who don't want to deal with it, I understand. Maybe they were choosing equally between moving to Austin and LA or whatever, and they're like, now all of a sudden LA looks way more appealing. So that totally makes sense. From the investment side, if you are investing in a property out of state, it's very manageable with the property management, but it's much harder if you're not there. And also, this is kind of a landlord's nightmare because you have to deal with all of your tenants. I know some investor friends, and they didn't lose power, but their tenants did. So luckily they had a generator that they were able to bring over and give that family heat. But if you didn't, that falls on you and it falls on them. It's just a really hard situation and a lot of responsibility being shared. And, one of my favorite things about real estate is just how important the home is, because I really think it's the foundation of everything. Home is where we can return to be our best self and where we feel safe and all of those amazing things. And I would feel really, really bad if I had tenants that I couldn't give them heat, even though it's not your fault. It just adds another layer. It's a new thing to think about, especially new investors who aren't quite sure. It's you want to make sure that you're making a very well-informed decision. So I understand why people are now feeling more hesitations about moving to Austin. But that being said, I think this was a freak week. I think that we have learned a lot from it, and there are already, lots of conversations about how we can prevent something like this from happening again. Everyone that I know is like, all right, now I personally will have 10 gallons of drinking water in my house at any given time and a bunch of food that I can eat and a generator. They're buying all of these survival kits for themselves, because it is scary when something like this happens. But I do think, to my first point, this really showed me just how much I do love living in Austin, Texas. It was so wonderful to see everyone step up for each other and work together and, give each other rides, give each other blankets, give each other access to their showers, access to their bathrooms, access to their kitchens. I know people that didn't have water, so they were just cooking at other people's houses. And it was very, very heartwarming. And it really shows me that Austin is just one big community and we all really love and care for each other. And I don't know about you, but that is something that I want in a city that I'm living in and in a city that I'm investing in. So the storm is over, and, we're still picking up some of the pieces. But overall, I think what I'm taking away from this past week is that we really are stronger together, and we have such a strong community that we can rely on, and the real estate market is not gonna die because of this. So if you have any questions about moving to Austin, Texas, or buying real estate in Austin, Texas, let me know. I have all my information down there. While you're down there, please smash that subscribe button and hit the little bell. You can do the little thumbs up as well and leave a comment or share this video with a friend who saw on the news what was going on in Austin, Texas, and has questions about how that has impacted the real estate market. So as always, I'm Melanie Ginsberg. I have videos every single week telling you about real estate, investing, studying for your real estate exam if you want to become a real estate agent, all things real estate. Basically, I love real estate. So thanks for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Have the best day yet.